times a year from the 5 new prodigies that come out every year? Are we really going to be listening to the same music? And if so, is any new music going to be created? One for hope would not believe so. And another way I frame this question usually as well is, if Beethoven were alive, what would Beethoven be doing today? Would Beethoven be playing Beethoven, or would Beethoven be doing something new? I mean, for myself, the benefit of teaching art really comes from the idea of lateral thinking, and that, let me just get back to that as well. Sort of leave so many threads, but yeah, you have this system of teaching that has essentially taken us all the way to today. I believe my general idea, or my general theory, is that this has been good in the sense that it's been performance based, which is, quick results. Kind of like another analogy I like to think about is, a parent doing a child's homework. You can skip ahead, you get results really quickly, but to the detriment later on of true understanding, which is necessary for development musically later on, and that's why a lot of what we're still playing, in these conservatories is still Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, because and also a lack of 20th century composers, for the fact that they went very philosophically and solipsistically into obscure directions, but to exclude the general audience. But the main, the central core of music instruction is still along these lines. Okay, let me leave that right there, and I'm going to also talk about so what is the benefit of studying art? What is the benefit of studying music, and what are these neurological effects and everything? The way I believe it should be framed is that basically you can put the arts and the sciences on a compass of lateral and logical thinking. So if you say north and south represents logical thinking, linear thinking, then east and west should represent lateral thinking, non-logical or quote-unquote rational or creative thinking. And you see that both of these modes of thinking are necessary to making for human beings to function, for a lot of systems to function. You look at governments, you look at even any problem-solving technique, and usually incorporates these two, out of the box and in the box, right? When you have something that progresses in a linear fashion, algorithmically, as computer scientists would say, then you can go forward, you can go backwards, you can narrow down, you can refine. But at some point, let's say there's a roadblock that you hit in terms of your progress for whatever you're doing. It's only at a point like this that you have to move to the left and to the right. And this is where the lateral thinking, the mode of lateral thinking, irrational and out-of-the-box thinking, comes into place. Computers haven't really perfected this yet, though they're getting close. But and this is the strength, really, of human beings. I mean, when you I use a couple examples just in my paper, but when you take, let's say, when you have Garry Kasparov playing Deep Blue, the chess machine, that can perform 2 billion operations a second. The human can't. I mean, the human can only, do a very minuscule fraction of that in terms of computing power. But what the advantage of the human is that they have the lateral thinking ability. Garry Kasparov can look at what the computer is thinking, and essentially trap it by getting it to remain in its mode of thought. And then this is the lateral thinking technique. In one of those matches, he makes a move that has no reason. That's his first move, and the sole reason of which is to basically confuse the computer. I mean, against another opponent, that's psychology. Is the benefit of lateral thinking, and against a computer opponent, a computer could not think of something like that. It's only human beings and their lateral thinking ability that can do this. The lateral thinking mode is largely encompassed by the creative arts. So art, music, painting, literature, any of the creative arts really encompasses the lateral mode of thinking. And to put this, sometimes I like to think of that as a gas. I mean, it's so dynamic. The systems are so complex. You have this like butterfly effect chaos theory that you can't line it up in the same way that you could line up, a ski ramp and a bowling ball, right? So that kind of thinking is really linear thinking, inside the box thinking, and engineering. A lot of the sciences really fall on the compass of that, north and south, right? Not to say that any discipline doesn't require both. Another example of lateral thinking is Einstein. We had Newtonian physics all the way up to basically the beginning of the 20th century, and it worked very well. And that system, which was a linear model, because everyone essentially agreed upon it and refined it and perfected it after Newton nailed it, basically. Society, for physics at least, was up to a roadblock. The only way to circumvent that was for a guy like Einstein to use the lateral thinking mode, the creative mode. So for me, and in my personal belief at least, is that musical education and all forms of creative arts education is very important because it teaches you this lateral aspect of problem solving, essentially. But with that said, and it's necessary in life, but with that said, I also say that it's very difficult to teach. How do you teach lateral thinking? Well, you don't mark them on this criteria, that's for sure. It has to promote. You have to create a system of rewards, and you have to create a system of incentives, basically, to reward lateral thinking when it occurs. Probably the most lateral thinkers in the world right now are probably computer hackers. The reward, sometimes monetary, sometimes not, is getting inside of some kind of computer system. That reward is what kind of validates creative thinking when it happens. Another example, maybe in the classroom, would be if you're teaching, let's say, an English assignment, is to get each child to create one chapter of a story. So that if you have 30 kids, you have 30 chapters, and it's one continuous story, and each child has to carry the story, basically, creating a pressure, social pressure to make it good, and B, to make it enticing in the sense that you don't want to look bad in front of your peers. So and the success is measured by if other people enjoy it. So I mean, you have these really litmus tests, acid tests of creativity, and that's the only way, as I can see, to teach this kind of creative thinking. Not here's you must do this, you must do this, you must do this, rule-based systems, because that really is great for linear, but it's not that great for lateral thinkers. Okay. I mean, so closing out, my thesis overall when I began this was just to say that the teaching that you find now of music education has drifted, and that the paradigms of which we've based our musical education on, Beethoven, Mozart, Bach, were not educated in the tradition that we assume. I mean, that's almost, in my mind, it's almost now a fabrication, something that occurs because of the telephone effect that's taken over time. If the system was correct in 1830s, which I actually don't think it was, it must have drifted, and up to the point now where everything is just performance based, and really people are just repeating. It's like a Tower of Babel. People are just repeating the notes of others, and no comprehension in the sense that it's very elemental to understanding of music. And the reason why understanding music is important is because it promotes lateral thinking mode, and the reason the lateral thinking mode is important is because it allows people to function in society in a way that allows for creative problem solving, which is a necessary skill in life. In closing out, that's the crux of my argument. You can email me at alwintong@yahoo.com if you have any more questions. Thank you. Bye.